With the selection of a jury in the Sean Diddy Combs case almost complete, prosecutors are preparing for opening arguments on Monday. But they admit there's a snag. One of their key witnesses against the rapper appears to have gone missing. This comes as we learn that Combs' ex-girlfriend, who was seen on video being assaulted by the rapper, is pregnant.
Diddy's trial hasn't even started yet, and things are already spiraling out of control. One of the key accusers, known as Victim 3, has suddenly disappeared. She's completely off the radar. Prosecutors haven't heard a word from her, and no one knows where she is. This isn't just a small hiccup. It's a serious blow to the case. A missing witness, especially someone as important as her, could change everything. Some are calling it suspicious. Others think there's something more going on behind the scenes. One thing's for sure, this trial just took a dramatic turn before it even began.
Combs' trial backing out? Victim number 3, as she's called, was set to testify against the music mogul. The name of victim number 3 was going to be revealed when she took the stand, but the woman has apparently gone missing, and prosecutors say they've been unable to reach her.
People just get nervous, and this person could just be nervous and just has had second thoughts.
If the prosecutor can't find this witness, how might it affect the case?
Look, I don't think it's going to have a tremendous effect. The prosecution is going to call a number of alleged victims. So look, this is just one less.
Someone else is also getting cold feet. A juror sent an email to the judge asking to be removed from the panel for issues of personal.
A lawyer watching the situation broke it down like this. Losing a witness like Victim 3 makes it way harder for prosecutors to prove Diddy's guilt. He explained that when a case gets this big and public, some people just don't want the spotlight. They back out. Still, he believes the prosecution could push forward, as long as they're not relying entirely on her testimony. Another lawyer pointed out that when a witness goes missing, it puts serious pressure on the trial. And with only a handful of victims actually willing to speak, despite the mountain of lawsuits and claims, the whole case could start to feel a lot weaker. Meanwhile, a former FBI agent told News Nation that witnesses in cases like this are usually offered protection, especially as things heat up in court.
Testimonies are going to be extremely important. Building a case against someone as high profile as Diddy is not an easy job. So I'm going to bring in former FBI agent Bobby Chacon to talk more about this. So off the bat, Bobby, how do you build a case against a celebrity as well-resourced and powerful as Diddy?
Well, it takes a lot, Sylvia, as you know, because the allegations in this case range from like 2004 to 2024. So this is going to be going on for 20 years, and they're finally getting around to charging him now and trying now. That's because it's so difficult to get people who are not afraid to come forward. This person was powerful. They were rich. They had a lot of influence. They were allegedly violent. So all of those things add up to making it very difficult for investigators to get people to talk to them about these. You add in the fact that many of these things are embarrassing. They're of a sexual nature. They're private. They take place behind closed doors. And that adds to the reticence of witnesses coming forward and talking about these things. And so investigators have to do a lot of long, hard work in getting these witnesses to trust them, number one, to make sure they feel like they are being treated, not as a pawn in a game to get Diddy, but as people that really care, that the prosecution cares about these people. And so you bring in victim witness people who are trained really and have the background in talking to people who are maybe victims of alleged sexual violence. And so you bring in specialists that kind of can talk to people like that and get them to open up about these things and to trust the investigators and trust the prosecutors, that they're just not going to be thrust into a situation. You have to get them to trust you so that if someone does make a threat, even if it's veiled, people can do that on social media now. They can say things that are kind of a little bit wonky sometimes, or these veiled threats. So if the witnesses that you're developing are comfortable enough with you, they will bring those threats to you, or those situations where they might feel threatened. You always have on the federal level, we have the Witness Protection Program, right, which is run by the U.S. Marshal Service. That's kind of a very extreme step, because that's somebody you change their identity, you move them to another part of the country, they're not allowed any contact with previous people in their lives. So it's the witness protection program is one of the more extreme steps that you take, but there are other steps you can take to ensure the witness that they're not going to be subject to that. If anyone does make a statement that's even considered something like that, you send a team to go out and investigate and to question that person and to get them to maybe make a retraction or to kind of back off a little bit. So you do have to do a good job at making sure the witnesses are comfortable that if anything should happen that they feel uncomfortable about, they bring it to you, and then you have to address it in the ways that are.
Diddy is facing some heavy charges, and they're not minor by any stretch. The government says he ran an entire criminal enterprise through his businesses, including Bad Boy Entertainment. According to prosecutors, this wasn't just about music or money. They claim he used threats, weapons, and all kinds of abuse, emotional, physical, even sexual, to maintain control and get what he wanted. The original indictment even warned that Diddy might try to retaliate against anyone who dared to testify against him. And now, there are accusations that he's been trying to intimidate witnesses, even from behind bars.
Well, I mean, on the surface, if the prosecutor's claims are true, this seems like pretty much textbook witness tampering, right? I mean, it appears to be an effort to either, in some cases, intimidate witnesses from testifying against him, or there have been other reports of sort of inducing people to make statements in his defense. There was some allegation that in one instance this was a statement that he, in essence, dictated or drafted with a woman who made a statement that was attempting to rebut one of the accusers, I believe, in a civil case against him. I mean, witness tampering is bad. The things that Sean Combs is accused of are terrible. He pleads his innocence. The justice system will presumably work its way through.
It is likely that there is some underlying truth to at least some of the allegations. There might be a lot of underlying truth to a lot of the allegations. There's probably some bandwagoning going on. We spoke to an attorney who's for one of the alleged victims of Diddy a few weeks ago. I believe Amber Nomiki and I did, and they said they had calls, they had information, they had people, hundreds of them, come forward. They're not going to represent all of them. They're which ones have evidence that can be compelling. What are the best cases to bring that? I also saw a story in the New York Post. This is from a week ago about Diddy stuff that I wanted to read the headline of. Woman claims she saw minors dressed as Harajuku Barbies at Sean Diddy Combs' freak-off parties, what he was describing there to Conan so many years ago. Said these were sex-fueled parties with what she initially thought were little people dressed as Japanese Barbies. And she said, this is her talking to TMZ, are those midgets? And she actually thinks they were kids dressed up in sexy. Oh, gross. So again, that's just from someone who provided this information to TMZ for a documentary. Yeah. But pretty disgusting. It is.
Diddy's charges go beyond just racketeering. He's also accused of transporting people across state lines for prostitution. If he's found guilty, he could be looking at 15 years to life in prison. But for now, he's sticking to his claim of innocence. Even before the trial officially began, there were delays. Just picking a jury has been a challenge. Some potential jurors simply don't want to be part of a case this big, this intense. The judge says they're moving carefully to make sure everything runs fairly and smoothly. Meanwhile, Ben Chu, the lawyer who represented Johnny Depp, shared some interesting thoughts on the kind of jurors Diddy might be hoping for.
I think you want somebody who wants to serve, someone eager to serve, because that suggests that person might be inclined toward a celebrity like Diddy. I would also, in this case, I would want men, not because men support abuse, but I could see this being very difficult for women jurors. I would want younger jurors as well. I don't know that older jurors would be good for him.
Do you care where they get their news? Do you care if they go on social media?
I wouldn't care so much about social media. Certainly watching you on Law and Crime would be a real problem. But no, I wouldn't care too much. I mean, in fact, if they were reading the celebrity media, TMZ, Rolling Stone, that might be an encouraging thing for Diddy's counsel.
Now, Ben, according to the court today, they expect preemptory challenges.
Meanwhile, Diddy's defense team is expected to argue that some of his past relationships weren't so one-sided, that both people at times acted out. But legal experts say that's a risky angle. Just because a relationship had drama on both ends doesn't erase the core issue: who held the power? And in Diddy's case, if he used his fame, fortune, and influence to control people, that's still a serious problem. Because when someone couldn't be controlled, things allegedly turned dangerous. Just look at what happened to Aubrey O'Day. Her story may be one of the clearest warnings of what was at stake.
I wasn't willing to do what was expected of me. Not talent-wise, but in other areas. It's difficult when you're that young to understand your worth as a woman through the men that I was around, and that was very traumatic. I don't think any of us have healed from that. Diddy would be like, "You're not hot anymore, like what happened? You don't have anything, like you don't have any curves. You're looking like you're not looking like, I can't get people to think that you're my good-looking person." And there was no Me Too at that time. There was no protecting anyone at that time. You signed a million NDAs and a million contracts that took.
Gan Deal later revealed something horrifying. Diddy was planning to pimp out her music group.
And I know you ain't signed it. I know you ain't signed an NDA, clearly. But did Diddy make his artists sign NDAs and people that work for him?
Well, a lot of these rappers, a lot of these industry people, anybody who does business nowadays with the internet, they have NDAs, non-disclosure. That means that if you work for them, you around them, you can't disclose any of the information about them. It's the same thing that he gave to all his artists when he gave them their publishing back. I'm gonna give y'all publishing, but y'all can't talk about Janice Combs, Justin Combs, Sony, Bad Boy, or anything that happened. Y'all can't talk about none of that. But there's some artists that didn't say anything, that didn't sign it, and they able to talk about anything they want to. And I think that's those girls that was, I think Danny Kane. I think a couple of them didn't sign it. And boy, oh boy, they probably gonna go after him too. Cause I heard him, and I'm giving you this, Aubrey. He stood up there and he said, in front of a lot of people, we were in the studio, and I said something to him and walked out the studio. He said, "Yo, I'm gonna drug their ass off and pick them up and pimp them out to my nigga." He said, "I'm gonna drug them out. I'm gonna get them all on drugs, and I'm gonna pimp their ass out to my." And I was like, "Give somebody kids," and walked out. And it's somebody that heard me. It's somebody that heard me. I mean, well, it's not only somebody that heard me, it's somebody that I know who was in the studio at the time that happened, and I still talk to him today. And we were just talking about that the other day. He done moved back to Indiana. I don't know why. I'm gonna give you that one. He said he was gonna drug them all out and pimp them out.
Jurors typically don't respond well when the defense tries to make the victim seem equally at fault. That kind of strategy can backfire. Part of Diddy's defense might involve explaining away a video showing him fighting with his ex, Cassie Ventura, in a hotel. His lawyers could argue it was just a private argument, not part of any larger criminal scheme. Cassie, now pregnant, is expected to testify under her real name, while most of the other victims are staying anonymous. Some experts believe her. Pregnancy could make her seem more sympathetic to the jury, and her smaller stature might make it harder for Diddy's team to argue she was equally responsible for any violence. As for Diddy, he's pleaded not guilty to all charges and has denied every accusation. What's particularly interesting is that he's rejected all plea deals, according to Gan Deal.
Is that he need to take his counsel advice. Because if he think he's going to get out of this from the federal government, he out his mind. They in the process of plea bargaining, trying to do a plea bargain session with him, and he's not taking it. That's probably why one of the lawyers jumped off the case. Remember Benjamin Bradford, his first lawyer with the Cassie situation? He said, give her the 10 million and make this go away, brother. He ended up giving her 30 million. He's not taking the lawyer's advice. 9 times out of 10, they probably got him a good plea bargain. Yo, listen to me. We can give you 15 years. 10 or 15 years. You do that, you come out, you only have to do like 12, 13. Come out to a halfway house. You still can live some of your life out as a free man. He don't want to hear it. So it is what it is. The federal government do not want to go to court. 9 times out of 10, they want a plea bargain with you. You understand? You accept the plea. You accept the time, you go ahead, you save the government money, you save them time and effort and manpower. If you don't believe that that white guy was a plant, then something is wrong with you. He done sold them enough drug, but they haven't hit him with that charge. They haven't did him with that charge yet. Or that we know of. If you don't believe that they're going to try to hit him with those guns in there, they saving all that for last. The drugs, the guns. They'll do another superseding indictment and add those two up if he don't take the plea. If he don't take the plea bargain to the sex trafficking or whatever stuff like that, they're going to say, okay, let's add the guns to it and let's add the drugs to it.
How you feel about Keefe D? He out here crying to come home, man.
Keefe D, I think is a mistravesty of justice that Keefe D is still in jail without a bail, or they're not making his bail low enough for him to go home. For the fact of the matter is that Keefe D was told to say something by a LAPD officer who was writing a book, doing a movie, and making himself rich off of an event that happened in our culture. And that he's in jail because the cops said a lot of these things first.
By the end of this week, a jury is expected to be chosen, marking a wild turn for someone who was once one of the biggest names in music. Diddy, a billionaire known for his work as a rapper, producer, and businessman, now faces an uncertain future. There could be hundreds of cases headed his way. Lawyer Andrew Van Arsdale, who represents 37 people who've already filed civil lawsuits against Diddy, told CNN that over 400 more claims are lined up. Many of these people haven't come forward yet, fearing what might happen if Diddy isn't convicted. Van Arsdale explained, the reason they were hesitant to speak up for so long was because of the power he had and the threats to their careers. People are scared. What if he's not guilty? What if he's back on the streets in 2 months? What happens to them if they speak out? He added that clients are still terrified. This mirrors what lawyer Tony Busby said earlier, that Diddy likely has many more cases coming his way. Van Arsdale's team has received nearly 27,000 calls about Diddy. After filtering out prank calls and fake reports, they believe around 15,000 are legitimate complaints. After review, he thinks over 400 could become real lawsuits, some potentially massive.
When we will name names other than Sean Combs, and there's a lot of names. It's a long list already. And of course, I already know who some of these individuals are, but because of the nature of this case, we're going to make damn sure that we're right before we do that. But the names that we're going to name, assuming that our investigators confirm and corroborate what we've been told.
Van Arsdale isn't the only one suing Diddy. At least 12 other lawyers are representing individuals who have filed lawsuits against him. These claims span across different people, places, and time periods. And one lawsuit even goes as far as claiming LeBron James was involved.
is an explosive new lawsuit that I'm going to break down for you, filed by a man named Joseph Manzaro in Florida. And this is actually in Florida federal court. So he is actually identifying himself in this lawsuit. He's not using a pseudonym. And he claims that he is a survivor of human trafficking and sexual exploitation. And more specifically, as outlined in the complaint, quote, plaintiff was drugged, transported against his will, and sexually maimed as a victim of a coercive and organized criminal enterprise beginning in 2015, orchestrated and facilitated by the defendants. The pattern of threats, concealment, manipulation, and psychological coercion persisted for years, extending the statute of limitations under federal tolling doctrines. Now, here is the kicker. Quote, high-profile individuals, including Jacob Arabo, Jay-Z, Gloria Estefan, LeBron James, and Beyonce Knowles Carter, are identified as witnesses due to their presence or knowledge of the events surrounding the freak-off orchestrated by defendant Diddy. Wow. And freak off, of course, is something that we've heard many times before, both in Combs' criminal case and other civil cases, to describe these prolonged sexual episodes, usually with sex workers. But Manzaro is suing Sean Combs. He is suing a man named Eric Mejias. He is suing Brendan Paul, who's been described in another lawsuit as Sean Combs' drug mule, Emilio Estefan, who is married to pop superstar Gloria Estefan, and Adria English, who filed her own lawsuit against Sean Combs, claiming she too was a victim of sex trafficking. By the way, it's interesting he's not suing these other celebrities that I mentioned, like Jay-Z and Beyonce and Gloria Estefan, possibly because he doesn't believe their alleged liability amounted to a civil claim, but seems to want to call them as witnesses at a trial, although I have to imagine they will do everything in their power to quash any subpoena should this case progress, and we'll talk a little bit more about